Hello and welcome to the second lab section of Linguistics English 315. This is the phonology lab section. I want to start with something that you might have read in the textbook, and this is called as the McGurk effect. And it has to do with visual cues and how much we rely on just looking at somebody to understand what that person is actually talking about. So, this is an effect that has been named after Harry McGurk in 1976, and I will show you a video to demonstrate what this McGurk effect is about. So, I want you to listen to this video.
Ba, 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 ba.
So, what speech sound did you actually hear? So, if you were actually looking at this video, depending on each of the pronunciation, you would have heard a different speech sound. But now, what I want you to do is, I want you to close your eyes and then I will play the video again. So, please close your eyes and then listen to the sound again.
Ba, 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 ba.
Now, what you heard is just one speech sound repeated 4 times. So, what was happening? You listened to the same video with your eyes open and with your eyes closed, and what you actually found out was that you are relying on your eyes and not just on your ears to understand what speech sound this person was actually producing. And so, what this suggests is that everything that we hear cannot be relied on because depending on whether we are paying attention to the person's mouth, the person's face, what we hear actually differs. So, this I think is a very cool kind of illusion in phonology. It's been very well studied. And so, I have another video here that also illustrates this effect and talks a lot more about the kind of research that's happening with the McGurk effect. Now, what I want to do is I want to give you a couple of exercises for practice. And so the first one that we will do is to find minimal pairs. And I want you to find at least 3 minimal pairs for the following phonemes of English. So I want you to find minimal pairs for s and z, b and w, d and z, and t and th. So these are different phonemes of English, as you know, because these are different speech sounds. You can hear the contrast of distinction between them. And what I want you to do is to find 3 minimal pairs. So, what I want you to do first is to identify words that start with s and z in the onset position. And then, if you find one word that starts with s, like a very simple word, for example, just one syllable. So, let's take sip, for example. And so let me go to my whiteboard to illustrate this. Let me just make sure that you can see the whiteboard. Okay. So if you take the word sip, for example, right? So that's written like that in IPA. And then if you just change this to z, right? Now you're just changing the onset position and you can see that your nucleus and your coda remain unchanged across these two words. You're just changing the onset position and you get two different words of English that mean two different things. So here you've found your first minimal pair. So this is what I want you to do for each of these words. It could be either the onset position or it could be changing the coda position. I haven't really given you any vowels, so you can't really change the nucleus. The nucleus is going to remain the same. But either by changing the onset position or the coda position, you are going to find 3 minimal pairs for the following phonemes. So what I want you to do is I want you to do this at home on your own. I'm not going to do this. I've just given you a hint on how to do this. And I have answers for you in the remaining slides. So I will go ahead and show you the answers, a couple of answers that I have. So so here are some of them: hiss and hiss, sink and sink, muscle and muzzle. And as you can see, I've not given you the answers in IPA, but you have to transcribe these into IPA to actually figure out why they are minimal pairs. And then for V and W, I have vet and wet, while and while, went and went. And then for D and the, I have ride and ride, wordy and worthy, day and they. And for T and the, I have oat and oat, tent and tent, tank and tank. So please do this at home and try to come up with 3 minimal pairs on your own. But here are some sample answers to the question. I have given you a video that actually demonstrates how to find minimal pairs and tips on how to work with minimal pairs. But what I want to do now is I want to solve a phonology problem to kind of show you how we can apply what we learned about phoneme and allophone and contrastive and complementary distribution this week and then solve a phonology problem using that. So again, just because we have been looking at Thai data with comparison to English, I have given you a data set from Thai and from English. And as you can see, these are transcribed into IPA, and I've also given you the meaning of these words. So the first one is pan in Thai. It means like or as. And the Thai word pan with the aspirated p means tray with a pedestal, and ban means classifier. And in English, peak is to peak, speak is to speak, and beak is the beak. Now, what I want to do is first I'm going to write these words just so that I can move on to the next slide. Right, so that's Thai. And then from English, I have speak and beak. All right, so these are the questions that I want you to answer. The first one, are P and P in Thai phonemic or allophonic? Are P and P in English phonemic or allophonic? And are B and P in English phonemic or allophonic? So where do we start? We start with the first step in your algorithm for solving a phonology problem, and this has to do with finding minimal pairs. That's where we're going to start with. Let's start with the first question. This is Thai, so we only look at the Thai data for this, and we only look at P and P. So I've literally given you one word each for these two. So we look at pan and we look at pan. And can you tell me if this is a minimal pair? Yes, that's right. This is a minimal pair because as you can see, your nucleus is the same and your coda is the same, and only your onset position has changed, right? So yeah, the first step in figuring out the answer to this question is, are there minimal pairs? So you say yes, and if there are minimal pairs, then what do? Is there a difference in meaning? Yes, there's a difference in meaning, and therefore you know that they are in contrastive distribution. You can actually feel the difference between the two. So if they are in contrastive distribution, then they are actually two different phonemes. So the distinction between P and P is phonemic in Thai, right? So you can write these two speech sounds as two different phonemes in Thai. Right? So that's your first answer to the question. Now for the second one, we look at the English data and we look at P and PH, and that's the first two data, as you can see. Is this a minimal pair in English? No, because in the onset position, in the first word, you have an aspirated P, but in the second word in the onset position, you have a S and a P, and therefore that's not a minimal pair because there are two things that have changed between this. So in English, with P and P, there exists no minimal pairs, and therefore they should be in complementary distribution. If you are in complementary distribution, then they are allophonic, right? So in English, these are allophonic, right? And so you can have one phoneme, the p, and you can have two different allophones of it. So that's the p and the ph, right? And so that is in English, right? And so our p and p in English, phonemic or allophonic? They're allophonic. And for the last question, b and p in English, so we look at beak and peak. And is this a minimal pair? Yes, because again, there is only one minimal change to these two words, and that's in the onset position, p and b. So are b and p in English phonemic or allophonic? Are there minimal pairs? Yes, therefore it's in contrast to distribution, and therefore p and b are two different phonemes of English, right? So, so I thought I had an answer slide, but I don't. So, so the answers to the three questions: one, in Thai they're phonemic, in two they are allophonic, and three they are phonemic. All right. So now what I want you to do, so now you know how to look at data and solve a problem. And what I want you to do is I want you to practice exercises from your textbook. And so this is at the end of chapter 3 in your textbook. I'm not giving you page numbers because everybody has a different edition, so I don't want to confuse people. But I've given you the exercises, numbers of the exercise that I want you to do. That's 3.2, 3.3, and 3.4. 3.2 is about natural classes. 3.3 and 3.4 has to do with phonological rules and data from Old English in 3.3. So what I want you to do is I want you to do this at home, and then I will put up an answer key on Blackboard so that you can compare your answers with the correct, to see whether they're correct or not. All right. So good luck with this, and you also have your phonology assignment due this Sunday. So that will also be up on Blackboard. And again, do review the videos, do the practice examples from the lab section before you actually do your assignment.